You might have watched my video on how to start filming as a photographer. Maybe you've watched how to take better video shots. These have been episodes earlier in the series that I've been doing on how to improve your photography and how to do your videography. Now we're just going to do a very quick basic piece of editing on a video that I shot a few days ago with a friend of mine. I filmed for her yoga channel. It's called Yoga with Charlotte. She does some fantastic videos on all sorts of yoga tutorials and yoga flows for various sort of specific reasons. So one that we filmed the other day was a wrist-free yoga tutorials to design for people who have problems with their wrists, who maybe find doing a lot of yoga is a little bit too sore on their wrists. So definitely go and check out her channel. But I got a chance to just shoot a little bit of a story for her where basically she was talking about what yoga means to her, and we shot the basic A-roll, which was her talking, got all the sound, and then I shot a few bits of B-roll, which are the secondary shots. They're the ones that fill in around it just to make sure that it looks pretty. We could just leave it as one long video of her talking, but if we can improve it with a little bit of visuals, it just makes everything look a little bit nicer. So this is a very brief summary of how I edit in Final Cut Pro. So let's go over to Final Cut Pro and I'll show you how I edit and the process and the thought processes that I go through. So welcome to Final Cut Pro, and we're going to do the editing on this video of Charlotte in this program. So the first thing we're going to do is open up a new project, file new project, and I'm going to do it in 1080p and 24 frames a second to give us a nice cinematic look. It seems I can't actually figure out what I'm going to call it initially. We're going to have a new project open in the timeline, and the first thing I'm going to do is just skim through the original footage that I had of Charlotte speaking. She had a few attempts to get it right, so it took her a while to actually figure out exactly what she wanted to say. Most people would do this if you're interviewing them. Bring it down onto the timeline, and immediately I can see there is one big block. That was the bit that I knew I wanted to film. So just quick check, make sure that's definitely what I want to film, and just a quick check to make sure this is definitely what I want to edit, and just a quick playthrough to see how the sound is coming through. We're just going to have a quick look at the end of it as well, just to make sure we've got the beginning and the end tidied up, just to make sure we've got exactly the right length and exactly the right section all sorted out. Once we've done that, I'm then just going to adjust the sound because I recorded it with a safety channel on, so I just want to make sure it's got the right sound, just to make sure that everything sounds right. I've got a song that I've picked from Epidemic Sounds. I use Epidemic Sounds for all my royalty-free music for YouTube, and just want to see if I can find an area of the song that will sound right with the words that Charlotte is saying. I'm also going to drop the volume of that track down to make sure that you don't block out what Charlotte is saying. So that looks alright to me. I'm happy with how that is. I'm going to give it a slight fade in so it doesn't just immediately start blurring, because we're not going from the start of the song. And yep, that seems to be alright to me. I'm happy with the levels of how everything is coming through. So once we've got all of that, I'm happy with the basic. That's essentially my A-roll. That is what I want to show. That's the story I want to tell. And from this point, we then start to look at what we can put over the top just to help with the visuals, because as lovely as Charlotte is, it would just be nicer to have something that is just looking a little bit more pleasing to the eye in terms of telling the story, giving a little bit of background, adding a little bit of context to the story that we're telling. So we go through and we start picking our B-roll, and you'll see here that I'm just sort of scrubbing through and picking sections, and it's finding the bits that I know that I've taken that I like how they look. So we're just going to go through and pick all of the B-roll that we need. And I'm just laying this at the moment on top of the timeline, because essentially that's where it's going to sit anyway. We're also just going to go through and we're going to turn the sound down so that we don't have an overwhelming sound over the top of it. And here I'm just going through and just editing, trimming the beginning and the end of each clip to make sure that I've got the B-roll that I actually want. Also going to stabilize these just to make sure that everything comes out as smooth as possible. Once we've let everything render, we can then go through again and just check that everything's stabilized and everything is where I want it to be. Just having a quick playthrough, and again just giving things a little bit of a shift, maybe making some of these slow motion. So there I just went into the retime editor and selected automatic. Because it was filmed at 60 frames a second and we're playing it back at 24 frames a second, automatic speed will make it 40% of the original. So going through and again just trimming. Once you've got it at 40% speed, you suddenly realize how much extra footage and how many extra frames at the beginning and end of each clip you've got. So you can just go through and cut down those clips to make sure that everything's going to be absolutely fine. With this clip here, I've decided I want a speed ramp in the footage. So I want it to start slowly, and then I want it to pan quickly, and then slow down again at the end. So I have put speed cuts in. The shortcut is Shift and B on the Mac, and then just selected which portions of those I've decided to speed up or slow down. I'll do a full video on speed ramping at another point, but essentially at this point all we need to know is we're just choosing to change the speed of some of these clips. So we do speed ramp, just check, see how everything's going to look. I think it was too fast at 200%, so I've then put it down to just normal speed. And again, just tidying up these clips, picking and selecting. Some of them I've decided I don't need, so I've been deleting some of those. And just making sure that everything is, roughly speaking, where we want it to be in the timeline, to make sure we've got something that is really pleasing to the eye when we play it back. I think that's looking pretty good. I'm happy with that. So I'm happy with the gaps. I'm happy that she's talking. The important bits of seeing her talking are actually seeing her talking bit where it's sort of most emotional or most important to the story, and then we can use the B-roll to provide context to the rest of it. So that's all looking pretty good. I quite like having B-roll in either groups of 3 or groups of 5. I think even number B-roll, maybe it's just my OCD, but even number B-roll, for some reason just I'm not a big fan of it, which is why these are all grouped into 3s and a 1. So I'm happy with that. I'm pleased with how it's all coming together. Just a little bit of playing around and shifting around just until you're completely happy with how things are going. And that's it. So let's have a look at the final version.
To me, yoga is not about the physical practice. When I started, I was already dancing and going to the gym, and I really wasn't that interested in what yoga could do for my body. But very quickly I realized that it gave me this clarity and peace of mind. It relieved the stresses from day-to-day life. And over time, through practice, because I was getting those benefits, it's become more and more physical. And with that, I have become less interested in the way my body looks, the size of my jeans, the number on the set of scales, and more interested in what I can do with my body. It fascinates me that if you put in this everyday work, even if it's just 10 minutes, how much you can shift and change yourself. And that happens not only on the physical, but also on the mental. So yeah, yoga is everything to me.